Part 133. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1321. Chapter 1321 I am her boyfriend. Xia Yingluo went into the bathroom to take a shower and put on a clean bathrobe. The soft coral velvet material wrapped around her body was very comfortable, but it didn't make her feel better. She looked at the white snow outside the window with some confusion, thinking to herself, I wonder what Wei Lingnan and Gu Jingxiu are doing now. Will you cuddle up with each other in the hot spring pool, laughing and talking? There was a voice outside the door. It was Zhang Yu. Yingluo, are you there? Xia Yingluo came to her senses and raised her hand to rub her cheek, not wanting him to notice her sad expression. Then he got up and opened the door. Outside the door, Zhang Yu also changed into a comfortable long bathrobe and stood. He was worthy of being a big star. His body proportions were perfect, and his slightly open chest revealed faint muscles. He was the one who made countless little girls blush and scream. Kind. But Xia Yingluo had seen too many handsome guys and had long been immune to male lust. At this time, she just let him into the room calmly. Zhang Yu raised her eyebrows slightly. Her figure, which she had always been proud of, did not attract her attention, which made him feel a little frustrated. But he quickly suppressed the frustration, entered the room, and put the tray in his hand on the table. I'm bored, so I came to you for a drink, a glass of lemon and fresh orange juice, a glass of dragon fruit and pomegranate juice. You, which drink do you want? He had done his homework before coming. He invited Li Rui, the second young master of the Li family, out for a drink, and was told that his sister likes healthy food. Li Rui was actually very dissatisfied with this boy for targeting his sister, but he understood that his sister needed someone to help her get out of the shadows, so even though he was reluctant, he still tried his best to explain what he should pay attention to. Everything was handed over to Zhang Yu. Both are Xia Yingluo's favorite drinks. Xia Yingluo picked up the dragon fruit and pomegranate juice and smiled at Zhang Yu. Thank you. Although it was just a polite smile, Zhang Yu was very happy. Why are you so polite? I brought you out to play, so I should take good care of you. The two of them had a tacit understanding and did not mention the fact that they had just met Wei Lingnan and the others in the hot spring area, and just chatted aimlessly. After a moment, Xia Yingluo suddenly said, I want to go back tomorrow. They originally booked a 3-day trip here, but now is the first day. As for why she suddenly wanted to leave, Zhang Yu knew very well. Who wants to see his ex who abandoned him and his current girlfriend hanging in front of him? Zhang Yu said, I'm bored at home when I go back. I'll take you somewhere else to play. The next scene won't start filming until after the Chinese New Year, and I have nothing to do during this time. Why don't we go to Switzerland? I heard your second brother, he said that there is a master painting exhibition there recently and he will also go there. We can invite a few more friends to make it more lively. When you go abroad, you probably won't encounter Wei Lingnan. A change of environment might be a good thing. Xia Yingluo said, go back first and let me think about it. Zhang Yu didn't want to push her too hastily. It would be bad to offend people. Li Rui would also go to the art exhibition anyway. If Li Rui could help her become a lobbyist, there would still be a chance. So he said, I will take you back tomorrow. With the itinerary settled in this way, the two of them left the room and planned to go to the restaurant to eat together. This is the most high-end guest room area in the entire hot spring hotel. As soon as they closed the door, they saw someone coming out of the room diagonally opposite. They met on a narrow road, and it turned out to be Wei Lingnan. Wei Lingnan was holding a dinner plate in his hand, which obviously contained food for two people. When Xia Yingluo saw it, her expression changed slightly, and then returned to normal. These days, she has not dared to think deeply about one question. At what stage have Wei Lingnan and Gu Jingxiu developed? Did they live together? With a dull pain in her heart, she warned herself that no matter how far they went, she would not care about her, lowered her head, and turned around. Xia Yingluo Wei Lingnan called her. Her body was slightly stiff and she did not look back. Beside her, a warm and firm hand held her. It was Zhang Yu. At the same time, Zhang Yu's voice also sounded, "Wei Lingnan, please stop harassing Yingluo, she doesn't want to see you." Wei Lingnan narrowed his eyes and looked dangerously at the man in front of him who dared to hold Xia Yingluo's hand. "Who are you?" Yingluo's boyfriend Zhang Yu's voice was not high-pitched, but she was decisive and her words were clear. Xia Yingluo's body stiffened slightly, but she did not retort. Wei Lingnan looked at her back, as if there was a storm brewing in his eyes, and the irritability expanded in his heart. It was strange, he already had a Luo, why would he rush forward when he saw Xia Yingluo with someone else? The urge to tear that person apart? "Let's go." Xia Yingluo still didn't look back, her voice was very soft, she held Zhang Yu's hand and walked towards the end of the corridor. Wei Lingnan was left alone, his expression changing in the dim skylight. He lowered his head and glanced at the two bowls and chopsticks in his hands. Gu Jingxiu fainted just after returning to the room from the hot spring. After he injected a lot of energy to rescue him, Gu Jingxiu told him that his heart was damaged and his life was in danger. If he wanted to cure it, to protect her heart, she must. Wei Lingnan's expression was even darker. He was still hesitant at first, even though he had considered what to do if Aluo's body was in trouble when he was doing the resurrection experiment. "So I deliberately left a backup. But now, the identity of the backup product and the resurrected body that he originally had high hopes for were reversed, and he couldn't bear to take action." But this unbearability turned into anger and violence the moment she saw Xia Yingluo and Zhang Yu holding hands. "Forget it, Xia Yingluo, since your body has the same origin as Aluo, then let's play its original role." Xia Yingluo, who had dinner with Zhang Yu, was not in high spirits and went to bed early after returning to her room. Halfway through her sleep, she suddenly woke up for some reason. The sky outside the floor-to-ceiling window was full of stars, reflecting the snowy light entering the room. In the snowy light, a man's handsome and cold face was faintly outlined. He stood quietly beside her bed, leaning over to look. He looked at her like a ferocious beast on the hunt. She was so frightened that her heart stopped beating and she almost screamed. "Wei Lingnan, what are you doing?" Her mind went blank for several seconds before she found her voice and looked at the man in front of her warily. Wei Lingnan dragged her up from the bed effortlessly. "I'm sorry, I blame you for being born with the wrong genes." Before Xia Yingluo could understand what he meant, she felt a pain in the back of her neck, her vision turned black, and she fainted. "When I woke up again, I was in a pale laboratory. There was nothing all around. Her hands and feet were shackled to the ground. There was a cold light above her head. Outside the transparent glass of the entire wall, researchers were busy. She only felt groggy, and her body could not exert even half of her strength. Maybe she had been injected with some medicine, and the blood in her limbs felt like boiling pain." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1322. Chapter 1322. What do you want to do? She endured the intense pain, and everything before she fell into coma appeared in her mind in slow motion. Did Wei Lingnan capture her into the underground base? What does he want to do? An ominous premonition vaguely appeared in Xia Yingluo's mind. She tried to break away from the shackles on her body, but she couldn't even move them a little bit. However, outside the huge glass observation window, researchers had spotted her waking up. They gathered together, looked at her data on a screen, and exchanged a few words with each other. One of the researchers in a white coat hurriedly left, not knowing what to do. Soon, the door of the laboratory was opened. A woman wearing elegant clothes and exquisite makeup walked in. It was Gu Jingxiu. The door closed silently behind her. Gu Jingxiu looked down at Xia Yingluo, who was curled up on the ground in pain, with an intriguing smile in her voice. "You're awake." Xia Yingluo bit her lip tightly, forcing herself not to reveal any trace of pain. She stared coldly at the woman in front of her without saying a word. "It's hard," Gu Jingxiu suddenly smiled, with a hint of pity. "It's so pitiful. She is obviously the daughter of the Li family, but she is locked up here like an animal. I told Nan that I could treat her better, but he was too worried about me, so he locked you up just to be sure. It is indeed their fault." Xia Yingluo's heart ached with pain. When Gu Jingxiu mentioned the man so casually and with a triumphant tone, she wanted to cover her ears. However, she was still unwilling to back down in front of her love rival and only stared at Gu coldly. "Jingxiu, what exactly do you want to do?" "What do I want to do?" Gu Jingxiu laughed in surprise. "You should ask Nan what he wants to do." "What, if you are smart enough, you can't guess it?" Gu Jingxiu's cat and mouse smile made Xia Yingluo want to vomit. The pain in her blood, like boiling lava, became stronger and stronger. She felt cold and hot all over her body, and her face became paler and paler. "Let me out," she said to Gu Jingxiu with difficulty, her teeth chattering. "I'm not interested in what's going on between you." "Let you out?" Gu Jingxiu seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. "Xia Yingluo, are you still so naive now? Since you have the guts to compete with me for a man, you must have such a consciousness, you are the one who will die. The only ending. Die." Xia Yingluo's heart skipped a beat, and the pain in her body hit her again, causing her to take a breath. She originally thought that Wei Lingnan was just instigated by Gu Jingxiu and caught her here to humiliate and vent his anger, but now it seems that it is not that simple at all. The murderous intention in Gu Jingxiu's eyes is not fake, she really wants to kill herself. Alarm bells rang in Xia Yingluo's heart, and an unprecedented sense of crisis arose. What should she do? This is the Wei's biochemical base, hundreds of kilometers deep underground. She can be regarded as helpless here. If they really want to do anything to her, there will be no rescue at all. Why, her thoughts raced, and she instinctively thought of a way to escape, stalling for time with Gu Jingxiu. "I broke up with him a long time ago, and it doesn't bother you at all. Why do you want to kill me? Do you know?" There was another sudden pain, and she couldn't help but hiss. She waited until the pain passed before saying, "My family won't let you go." Gu Jingxiu looked down at her on the cold floor of the laboratory. The girl only wore a thin pair of pajamas, and the thin moonlight white silk satin lightly outlined her perfect figure. Her hair was messy, and her delicate little face had an expression of extreme pain and self-sufficiency, which made people endure. "I can't help but have the urge to give everything for care." Wei Lingnan was confused by her appearance, right? Gu Jingxiu thought viciously that as long as she didn't kill Xia Yingluo for a day, she would have trouble sleeping and eating. Although Wei Lingnan is with her now, it is just because she is a Luo in his previous life. He deeply loves the alien queen in his heart, not Gu Jingxiu. She has always understood. Gu Jingxiu was in a state of confusion, wondering how long this love would last and whether it would be shaken by Xia Yingluo's presence. A woman's intuition is always very accurate, especially when it comes to love. The way Wei Lingnan looked at Xia Yingluo was not innocent, Gu Jingxiu could swear. She couldn't let the situation go on like this. Smiling again, Gu Jingxiu's expression turned vicious. "Stop trying to fight to the death, Xia Yingluo. What if your family won't let me go? Some time ago, they wanted to destroy the Gu family, but what was the result? As long as Nan is here, they can't even lay a finger on me. Haha, just die in peace." Xia Yingluo's face turned pale. She didn't know whether it was from pain or anger. She shook her head weakly. "Why, what reason did you use to convince Wei Lingnan to capture me and kill me?" "Want to know?" Gu Jingxiu smiled happily and didn't mind telling her at all. You pushed me in the hot spring and pushed out my heart problem. I had to change my heart to survive. Who told you to carry a load on your body? Since you have the same genes as me, of course I will dig out your heart and save my life. Are you satisfied with this answer? Xia Yingluo didn't expect this to happen, and felt chills in her heart. You lied. She looked at Gu Jingxiu unwillingly. I don't believe that push had such serious consequences. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, Gu Jingxiu said with profound meaning. Nan Xian is fine, isn't it? I see. Suddenly, Xia Yingluo felt clear in her heart. Sure enough, there was no heart problem at all, and there was no need to change her heart. Everything was directed and acted by Gu Jingxiu, just to let Wei Lingnan kill her with his own hands. And Wei Lingnan really believed Gu Jingxiu's words? Xia Yingluo felt as if an invisible giant hand grabbed her heart, which was so painful that it felt like it was going to burst. It turns out that the man would do anything for Gu Jingxiu, and he regarded her life as something that could be sacrificed at any time without asking for proof. She closed her eyes sadly. Gu Jingxiu originally wanted to appreciate her pain for a while, but no matter how much she stimulated her, Xia Yingluo remained silent. After standing for a moment, Gu Jingxiu felt bored, snorted coldly, turned around and left the laboratory with elegant steps. At the entrance of the laboratory, the researchers bowed their heads to her respectfully. The news spread throughout the base that she was President Wei's real girlfriend. Who dared to provoke her? Gu Jingxiu returned to his residence in the base and saw Wei Lingnan in the living room. The man was wearing a clean white shirt and stood quietly. The artificial light shone on him, making him look a little lonely. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1323. Chapter 1323, Only Enough for One Person. Gu Jingxiu put on a gentle smile and called softly, Nan. Step forward and gently snuggle into his arms. Wei Lingnan's body temperature is slightly lower than that of ordinary people, but his hard chest makes people feel very reliable. Gu Jingxiu leaned against her quietly for a while and heard him ask, Have you visited Xia Yingluo? Gu Jingxiu's body stiffened slightly, as if he had been caught doing something shameful. However, in an instant, she naturally followed his words, Yeah, how did you know? Did the researchers tell you? I just went to see if she was awake. There was no other purpose. They are so talkative. You smell like her, Wei Lingnan said. How can researchers tell him? He was so familiar with Xia Yingluo's scent that he noticed it immediately when Gu Jingxiu just opened the door to the living room. Gu Jingxiu's heart sank again, and her eyes became cold in a place where Wei Lingnan couldn't see. Sure enough, the decision to get rid of Xia Yingluo was correct. That woman occupied Nan Tao's thoughts and would be a disaster sooner or later. She raised her head and looked at Wei Lingnan carefully. She's awake, when will you dig out her heart to me? I feel so much pain here. As she spoke, she took Wei Lingnan's hand and pressed it on her chest. The young woman's skin was smooth and elastic, with an indescribable temptation, but Wei Lingnan took his hand away. Nan, Gu Jingxiu shouted dissatisfied. She was very anxious. The two had been together for so many days, but Wei Lingnan had never done anything inappropriate towards her. How could any lovers be like them? Not long ago, she tried to seduce Wei Lingnan into bed, carefully arranging a candlelight dinner and red wine, but at the critical moment, she was pushed away by him. How so? She was very dissatisfied and shouted again, Nan, do you like me? Wei Lingnan lowered his eyes slightly, how could I not like you? Then why do you never touch me? Gu Jingxiu asked eagerly, her face turning red from embarrassment. After all, She is also the eldest daughter of the Gu family. She has received a good education since she was a child. Now she has the courage to ask such a question in front of him. Wei Lingnan was quiet for a moment before saying, "I can't touch you. Allo, I'm from the planet Scatena, and I haven't experienced reincarnation on Earth like you. This planet regards me as an alien. People who have been touched by me will have a rejection reaction and will die if they don't take the antidote in time, but I don't have the antidote for you now." Gu Jingxiu understood. In the flash of lightning, she remembered another thing. "I got lost in the base a few days ago and walked into a laboratory. The researchers there said that it was a confidential place and even I was not allowed to enter. It was used to cultivate and produce rejection. The place where the antidote is reflected. Nan, you have the antidote, why not?" As she was talking, she suddenly stopped and her expression changed drastically. Wei Lingnan looked at her and said in a calm voice, "Yes, Xia Yingluo is using the antidote. It's only enough for one person." Hearing his own admission, Gu Jingxiu's body shook. What does this mean? Xia Yingluo and Wei Lingnan had been in bed a long time ago. Jealousy, anger, unwillingness. Many emotions were mixed together, making Gu Jingxiu's expression colorful. Why? Why has she never had any intimate relationship with Wei Lingnan, so that can? Gu Jingxiu couldn't wait to rush back to the laboratory and tear Xia Yingluo apart immediately. "My heart feels so uncomfortable." Her face turned pale and her body shook even more, as if she couldn't stand. "Nan, kill her." Wei Lingnan didn't look good either. He was silent and helped Gu Jingxiu. "Go to bed and rest." "Nan," Gu Jingxiu grabbed his hand tightly, her sharp nails digging into his arm. "Kill her, immediately. Her body hasn't been fully healed yet." Wei Lingnan's usually calm and indifferent tone seemed to contain a hint of helplessness. "Her body must be fully healed and adjusted to the best condition before we can take action." "Allo, I will change. Your perfect heart has no flaws." In fact, he had already used his own energy to check Gu Jingxiu's body and found that although her heart was damaged, it was not as serious as she said. And the wound didn't look like Xia Yingluo pushed it out, it looked more like Gu Jingxiu used his own energy to injure it. He vaguely understood that Gu Jingxiu probably couldn't stand Xia Yingluo and wanted to find an excuse to kill her. However, he was unwilling to seek confirmation. So what if Gu Jingxiu just found an excuse to kill someone? He always had to obey the Queen's orders. More importantly, Allo is a Scatena planet after all. Even if she is fused with human genes, there is no guarantee that her heart will not really have problems. If Gu Jingxiu wasn't faking it, even if there was a 1 in 10,000 chance that something went wrong, Wei Lingnan couldn't afford to take the risk. He must dig out Xia Yingluo's heart. After putting Gu Jingxiu to sleep, he left the house and walked to the laboratory where Xia Yingluo was detained. The frail girl was still curled up on the ground, motionless. A layer of faint blood stains were rubbed out on the shackled limbs, which was shocking on her fair skin. Wei Lingnan stood in front of the huge glass wall and looked at it for a long time, then ordered someone to open the door and walk in. Xia Yingluo raised her head and saw him. She suspected that she was dreaming and slowly lowered her gaze. Wei Lingnan knelt down in front of her, helped her up, and checked her breathing and body temperature. "What's wrong?" He frowned and looked at her. The nutrients he injected into her earlier had begun to take effect, nourishing her heart, and the side effects of rapid labor also appeared, making her extremely painful. However, her aura was so disordered and her vital signs were unstable, as if she might die anytime and anywhere, which made him feel inexplicably uncomfortable. Xia Yingluo looked at him again and forced a sneer. "You want to kill me, and you still care about me," hypocritically. The voice was very weak, but Wei Lingnan understood it clearly. He frowned imperceptibly. Did Gu Jingxiu tell her everything? Feeling a little irritable, he originally planned to let her leave this world without knowing anything. He whispered to her, You won't die in too much pain. I didn't feel like I owed her anything, but what could I do now that things had come to this? Xia Yingluo sneered again, very sadly, do I still want to thank you for your kindness? The sarcasm in her voice silenced him. After a long time, she shook her head weakly, I was blind and saw the wrong person, who is to blame? Remembering that time she asked him, what should I do if I am not a Luo? He said that he would protect her for the rest of his life. Nowadays, the oath of alliance is still in our ears, but the situation has turned around so much that it makes people want to laugh. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1324. Chapter 1324 Awakening. The two looked at each other in silence under the pale light of the laboratory. Suddenly, Xia Yingluo asked, can you promise me something? Wei Lingnan's voice was a little weak, what's the matter? Xia Yingluo felt slightly disappointed. He did not agree immediately, but asked something. However, how could she have too high demands on him? This man was so cruel to her, and it was good to refuse him without asking or asking. She suppressed the sadness in her heart and said softly, after I die, don't embarrass my family. Wei Lingnan's answer was spotless, if they don't cause trouble for a Luo. Xia Yingluo should have expected such an answer a long time ago, and her heart felt cold. However, how could her family not cause trouble for Gu Jingxiu? Wei Lingnan must be well aware that once something happens to her, the overwhelming anger of the Li family and the Xia family will be directed at Gu Jingxiu. Then can you promise me not to hurt their lives? Wei Lingnan was silent for a moment, and then said, only if they pose no threat to a Luo's life. This was the limit of what he could agree to. If it were an ordinary person, he would kill anyone who dared to hurt a Luo's hair. And only Xia Yingluo could make him tolerate it so well. But Xia Yingluo was obviously disappointed with this answer. That's right, she smiled self-deprecatingly, what else can I ask for from a beast like you? They were obviously the ones who wanted to kill her first, but they didn't allow her family to fight back and retaliate. Xia Yingluo looked at Wei Lingnan. The man in front of her was so strange and chilling. What if? She looked into Wei Lingnan's eyes and said slowly, would you believe me if I said Gu Jingxiu was faking? Would you let her live? This time, Wei Lingnan turned around and walked out the door, have a good rest. He didn't believe it. In other words, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, he just wants her to die anyway. Xia Yingluo's heart felt cold and painful, like a large piece of ice pressing on the softest part of her heart. Wei Lingnan, she looked at his still slender and elegant back and made her last request softly, erase my memory of you and let me die cleanly. The man paused for a moment and left without looking back. The door of the laboratory closed again, and Xia Yingluo curled up on the ground, with a sarcastic smile still on her face, but there was a faint glimmer of water in the corners of her beautiful eyes. Through the huge transparent glass wall, the researchers outside the laboratory pointed at her, but she didn't want to pay attention at all. Time passed little by little, and she remained motionless in the same position. Nutritional agents were injected into her blood. The burning sensation became more and more intense, and the pain made her suspect that she was in purgatory. In a daze, she didn't know whether she was awake or asleep. It was as if I had had a long dream, dreaming about the deep purple mysterious planet Scatena. Different from many previous dreams, this time it was clearer and as if I was actually there. She dreamed that she was born on a huge tree, and on the day when the white fruit fell to the ground with her sisters, all the Scatena people were excited, prostrate on the ground, and called them princesses in awe. She was the thinnest one among them, squeezed into the corner by her sisters, and stumbled into an unknown life. She recognized her guardian, Nan, by shedding blood on the deserted plains. This guardian, who is as weak as her, accompanies her to grow up, protects her, and fights for her. They live and die together. Until an unknown day later, the way he looked at her was no longer so innocent. That was not the look of a guardian should have when looking at a princess, but a man looking at a woman. She understands Nan's thoughts very well. Nan wants to get her, breed new world trees with her, and become her husband. But, this is impossible. Not to mention that he is a guardian, the oldest laws of the planet strictly stipulate that he is not qualified to have a queen. To put it simply, she couldn't bear it. Hate to let him become my husband. The marriage system on Scatena is very strange. Only the queen can have a husband, and that person is more like food than a husband. The strongest man who has the honor to become the queen's husband after experiencing one life and death duel after another is only qualified to have fun with the queen for one night. After one night, the queen will eat him directly and use her sharp teeth to tear open his skin, flesh, bones and blood. Eat every inch of it, leaving no bones or residue behind. Then, she will give birth to a new world tree and plant it on their wedding place. It will bloom in 100 years, bear fruit in 100 years, and a new tribe will be born from the fruit in another 100 years. This is the civilization inheritance of Star Scatena. She was reluctant to turn Nan into the nourishment of the world tree. She didn't know how to face the day of losing Nan. Just thinking about it made her panic as if her heart was about to stop. She once felt that the planet was not kind to her and gave Nan such a perfect identity as a guardian who did not have to participate in the competition to choose a mate. But I didn't expect that Nan was so obsessed with her that even the people on the planet spread rumors, asking whether he had fallen in love with his queen. According to the law, if he has such daring thoughts, his bones will be crushed and his body will be thrown into the black hole of the universe and never come back. She deliberately treated Nan coldly, alienated him, and did not give him any chance to think wildly. She thought that this was the best protection for him. But who knew he would be so persistent and launch that rebellion? When she thought of the rebellion, she closed her eyes tighter in pain, as if she had seen that day again, when Nan killed everyone and rushed to her throne. He was covered in blood and looked down at her with determination in his eyes. "Allo, you are mine." She was extremely shocked by his behavior. Not only shocked, but also angry. In order to obtain an identity that did not belong to him, he actually went to war with all the tribesmen. You know, those are the outstanding warriors of the Scatena tribe. "I will never be with you until I die." She remembered that this was her answer at the time. Yes, she hated him for having the audacity to ruin everything, and more importantly, she felt that she was a sinner of the planet. Instead of fulfilling her duty to protect her people, she, the queen, brought unprecedented disaster to them. Disaster. She felt so guilty that she activated the energy in her body to explode and died. At the last moment of her life, what she saw was Nan's face that suddenly changed color, and a heartbreaking allo. Huge energy resonance. Even the world tree was aroused to resonate, and the high-frequency resonance detonated the entire planet, with a bang. The entire planet Scatena ceased to exist. Silence. Deathly silence. Xia Yingluo didn't know how long she had been unconscious. When she woke up again, there was no one outside the transparent glass wall of the laboratory. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1325. Chapter 1325 Return of the Queen. She remembered. She is Allo, the unique queen of Scatena, and she is unmistakable. The pulse of that planet is engraved in the depths of her ancient soul. Even though she is on Earth, an unknown number of trillions of light years away from her mother star, she can still feel the faintest pulse of the planet that has long been blown to pieces. That is the unique link between the Queen and her home planet, and it is also the only sign that the Queen is recognized. She didn't know why Gu Jingxiu mistakenly thought that she was a Luo, but that didn't matter anymore. In the eyes of the awakened Queen, that humble human being is not worth mentioning at all. Xia Yingluo moved her body, and the thin silk pajamas on her body rippled like water with her movements. The boiling pain in the blood before coma has disappeared, replaced by an unprecedented sense of power. Mysterious energy flows slowly along the limbs and bones. Every cell in the body seems to be reborn wherever it passes. She stood up, and the shackles that had tightly locked her shattered and fell to the ground, falling apart. She was not surprised at all when she looked at the metal fragments all over the ground. In fact, her strength had gradually increased since she had had physical contact with Wei Lingnan. Now that the queen's energy in her body had awakened, it was easy to break free of these metal shackles. Thing. She can escape. She lowered her head and used the ancient method in her memory to manipulate the energy. Her 10 nails grew at a speed visible to the naked eye, becoming more than 3 inches long and extremely sharp. They shone with a metallic cold light under the pale white laboratory light. The Katana star's claws are the best weapons and are indestructible. She raised her hand to destroy the magnetic lock on the door, but suddenly she thought of something and slowly put away her 10 sharp nails. Go back. Wei Lingnan, she whispered to herself, don't you want to find me? It's impossible. Since the man is blind and wants to kill another woman for her, then there is nothing left to talk about between them. She would not let him discover her identity, so she would let him guard his Gujingxiu for the rest of his life. But she had long been discouraged and just wanted to live the most peaceful life guarding her family. With a sneer, Xia Yingluo looked at the broken shackles on the ground with a pair of beautiful and slightly sharp eyes. The unusual cracks on the shackles hinted at the way they were broken by violence. Xia Yingluo activated the energy in her body, and an invisible storm exploded around her. In just a moment, the broken shackles turned into powder, evaporated into the air, and disappeared. In this way, Wei Lingnan will not find out about her awakening. She raised her wrist. There was a simple bracelet on her wrist, and she could not tell what material it was made of. However, under the violent energy storm just now, all the shackles were turned into powder, but this bracelet was safe and sound. It was the one Xia Moyan gave her for self-defense. She pressed open the bracelet according to the method her uncle told her, and the silver metal shone like water ripples. In the slightly twisted air, it quickly liquefied and fused, and soon formed a new form, a sharp dagger. She held the dagger, and her fighting instinct from eons ago coincided with her father's teachings over the past 10 years since she was reincarnated. She effortlessly found the most tricky angle to cut through the electromagnetic lock in the laboratory without alerting the alarm system. Every penny. She walked out of the laboratory as light as a cat. Outside the laboratory is a long corridor. Most of the researchers have gone off work, and there is not a ghost in sight at this time. But she was stunned by the sights on both sides of the corridor. There were many identical laboratories arranged opposite each other. Each laboratory had a huge transparent glass wall, and ugly monsters were locked behind the glass wall. Different from humans, and different from the Scatana people, they are like the freaks left behind after failed experiments. Some are half human and half animal, some are hideous and terrifying, some have multiple heads, and some are constantly leaking pus. Blood, even through the most complete soundproof glass, she could still hear their painful howls. What are these? Are they all failures of Wei Lingnan's experiment? Xia Yingluo resisted waves of nausea and vomiting. If the experiment failed back then, would she have become like this? Not wanting to look any further, she quickened her pace. Behind the glass wall, many monsters discovered her. They rushed towards her manically, slammed into the glass wall, and roared angrily, as if they would tear her apart at any time. Xia Yingluo frowned. She was worried that the restlessness of these monsters would attract the guards, so she ordered coldly, "Shut up." Invisible energy fluctuations spread out. The monsters were stunned at first, and then, as if they had seen something extremely awe-inspiring, they retreated in unison and lay on the ground trembling. They quietly, or rather respectfully, waited for her to pass. This is the Queen's coercion. These monsters have more or less genes from the Scatena planet. According to the rules of the Scatena tribe, the weak obey the strong, all living creatures will involuntarily bow to the Queen, regardless of wisdom and loyalty. That is the most important thing. The most primitive awe of power. Xia Yingluo walked through the corridor calmly without looking at them again. Out of the corridor, she found that this was the depths of the base, but it was not difficult for her to escape. She has been here several times and is very familiar with the guard's situation. In addition, the memory of the Queen who experienced hundreds of battles hundreds of millions of years ago has returned to her mind. This small base is no longer able to trap her. Easily, she returned to the ground. Hurry home as soon as possible. Everyone in the Li family gathered in a conference room. In the middle was a huge three-dimensional sand table, which contained the structure of Wei's underground base. Xia Yingluo stood by the door and heard Li Lei inside arranging tasks. I'll sneak in from here, Xiao Hui, you are in the rear. Xiao Rui, you are responsible for communications outside and be on standby. I want to go too, Li Rui's voice was very excited. Yingluo has been missing for so many days. I want to go into the base with you to rescue her. God knows if that in Wei Lingnan abused her. If one more person goes in, it will be better. An insurance. Be obedient, Xiao Rui, Li Lei said in a deep voice. I want to go, Li Rui really challenged him. Dad, I know you don't like my three-legged cat skills, but I'm not as weak as you think. I've learned a lot over the years. Don't believe it? Let's go out and have a fight now. See if I'm qualified to go in with you. I want to save my sister, I can't just watch her get stuck in there. Xia Yingluo felt a warmth in her heart. After awakening her memories from hundreds of millions of years ago, she originally thought she had turned back into the ruthless Queen Aluo. But when she heard these words from her second brother, her eyes changed with disappointment. Famous. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1326. Chapter 1326 Recognition of Family Members. It feels so good to be at home. She lost her loyal guardian on Scatena, but at least she still had them. She opened the door and called out, Dad, Mom, Brother, Uncle. Everyone turned to look at her. Seeing her safe and sound at the door, these big names who could only be looked up to in the eyes of the world were a little excited. Her mother Xiaoling even rushed up and hugged her tightly. In my arms, my voice was choked, Yingluo, it's really you, you're back. The mother's body was trembling slightly, but she patted her mother's back gently to comfort her. Yes, I'm back and I won't let you worry anymore. Several men in the conference room also gathered around. Xia Yingluo let go of her mother and greeted them one by one. Yingluo, how did you escape? Li Rui was the first to lose his composure and asked, that guy didn't abuse you, did he? Dad and Uncle also discussed to rescue you, but the underground base structure is too complicated. We've only done some research recently, so we're not completely sure. It's great that you can come out. I'm awake, she said. The air in the conference room was quiet. Everyone present seemed to realize something and looked at her in disbelief. Without saying anything, Xia Yingluo stretched out her hand. On her beautiful fingertips, the nails began to grow rapidly again, becoming sharp and glowing with a cold metallic sheen. She walked up to the conference table and cut it gently like cutting tofu. The table made of solid golden nanmu quietly broke into 8 even pieces. The sand table on it collapsed and shattered on the ground. Her nails were intact. This is not something that humans can do. Yingluo, it was Xiaoling who spoke first. Seeing such a scene, she had no fear, only the worry of a mother for her child. Yingluo took back her nails. Xiaomoyan looked at her thoughtfully. Are you the queen of Scatana? Yes, Xia Yingluo did not hide it, I remembered everything. Wait. Li Rui felt that his brain was running out. The fact that he didn't faint from shock was considered a good psychological quality. What was going on in front of him? How could his cute little princess-like sister have such incredible skills? Are you really not making a movie? He rubbed his forehead vigorously. Who can explain to me? Although he is Xia Yingluo's second brother, and the Li family has treated him as a family member since childhood, what happened to Xia Yingluo is unbelievable. If it is not necessary, it is always a good thing for one less person to know. Therefore, no one had told him about the grudges between Yingluo and Wei Lingnan in their previous lives. But now, there is no need to hide it. Xia Yingluo looked at Li Rui. Second brother, you saved me in Snow Fragrant Song last time. You should know that Wei Lingnan is not human, right? Li Rui nodded. He didn't know it at first, but with such a big movement and his sister's internal organs being incredibly shocked, it was hard not to know. At that time, he was shocked for a long time, and felt that all three views had been subverted. Now, as smart as he is, he quickly guessed something, and was shocked again. You, don't tell me that you are an alien too. I am. Xia Yingluo happened to have the whole family here, and simply completed the information that no one knew before. I am the queen of Scatana, and Wei Lingnan is my guardian. He wanted to get me and launched a coup. I was so angry that I blew myself up, which caused an energy resonance and the whole planet was blown up. Speaking of this, there was a faint guilt in her eyes. She could never forgive herself. She was the sinner of Scatana. Xiaomoyan helped her finish the rest of the sentence. So, by some means, Wei Lingnan brought your genes to the earth and resurrected you. Yes, Xia Yingluo said, turning to look at Xiaoling. Mom, I'm sorry. The medicine Wei Lingnan gave you back then was selfish. My genes were fused into it. This child was born to you and my father. It must be me. And, the embryos of Scatana are too overbearing for humans to bear. You can no longer get pregnant since you gave birth to me. No wonder, Xiaoling said. She and Li Lei both loved children and wanted to have more, but for some reason they never got pregnant again after giving birth to Yingluo. They went to the hospital for check-ups, and all the hospitals said her body was normal and she could get pregnant. Now that I think about it, it must be that human medical standards simply cannot detect the damage caused by the Scatana embryos. Mom, I'm sorry. Xia Yingluo felt extremely guilty. Her mother was so kind to her, but she had hurt her mother like this since she was born. It seems that after the queen's memory awakened, all she remembered was bad things. She was very sad, depressed, and even at a loss, not knowing how to compensate her mother. Xiaoling smiled, stretched out her hand, and took her into her arms again. Silly boy, so what if I can't get pregnant again? I already have you and your two brothers. I have 2 children, and you are both so outstanding. It's my pride. Yingluo, no matter what you were in your previous life, you are my Xiaoling's daughter in this life. It was my decision to give birth to you, so there is no need to apologize. Mom. Xia Yingluo wanted to cry again. Li Lei also went up to hug the mother and daughter, with a smile in his voice. I didn't expect my daughter to have such a great background. It's too late for me to be proud. How can I blame you? The family of 3 hugged each other for a long time. Li Rui on the side walked out gently, raised his head, and looked at the cold snowflakes outside. He has always lived a cautious life, and even his indulgent and indifferent character is just a layer of protection. He knew very well that he was not Li Lei's biological child, so what qualifications did he have to demand the love of Li Lei and Xiaoling? However, just now, when Xiaoling was focused on comforting Yingluo, she could still subconsciously say, your 2 brothers, Yes, too. In Xiaoling's heart, she has always regarded him as her biological son. He raised his hand and lit a cigarette. Smoking again, Li Shaowai's familiar voice came from beside him, smoking near mom and sister, be careful of dad beating you. Li Rui ignored him, still smoking his cigarette, and called out, brother. Huh, Xiao Hui looked at the snowy scene outside side by side with him. Li Rui said, brother, it turns out that you are the only one in our family who is truly the biological child of our parents. Nonsense, aren't you and Yingluo, Li Shaowai said in a relaxed tone. After all these years, he certainly knew where Li Rui's heart was, so when he saw Li Rui walking out unprepared, he followed him. I do. I envy you all. Each one of you is spoiled by your parents and becomes more lawless than the other. Only I am a coolie. Yesterday I said I would take a nap and I woke up and I fell asleep. 3 updates today. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1327. Chapter 1327 Future Plans. Li Rui's voice was a little bitter. Even if I want to work as a coolie, Dad won't allow it. Which man is willing to be a for the rest of his life? Especially for a young man like him who doesn't have to worry about food and clothing at all, who doesn't want to realize his own value. It's a pity that he was born in the wrong child. Li Lei has been guarding him since he was a child and prevents him from accessing core secrets. Although he is raised in fine clothes and a good life, who can understand the pain in his heart? I understand, Xiao Hui said. Li Rui smiled bitterly and put out the cigarette. Brother, you don't have to comfort me. I don't blame Dad. I'm very grateful that he can support me. I know he has difficulties, and even if he loves me, no matter how much he loves me, he won't let outsiders confusing the orthodox bloodline of the Li family. I will never be as good as you in this regard. There's nothing worse, Xiao Hui said. If I were in your position, I might not do better than you. He patted his brother on the shoulder. What could he do if his fate was like this? All he could do was to give what he had learned to Li Rui without any reservation, without telling his parents, and give this brother as many opportunities as possible to display his talents. His parents were guarding Li Rui because of him, but he didn't need such protection. Li Rui also patted his brother's hand with his backhand. Perhaps it was precisely because of his unreserved trust since childhood that he became what he is today. Over there, Xia Yingluo talked to her parents about their feelings after parting for a while, and then went back to her room to rest. She took a shower, changed into clean clothes, and looked at the familiar room, and then she felt like she was alive again. Xia Moyan came to find her. She was not surprised to see this cold-looking man. She called her uncle with a smile and asked him to sit down in the small reception area outside the suite, and made a cup of tea herself. The aroma of tea lingered, and Xia Moyan said calmly, "It's a real honor to have the Queen of Scatana make tea herself." Xia Yingluo still smiled. "Uncle, don't be joking, I am still the same Yingluo." She understood what he meant. Her uncle wanted to know if Queen Aluo was still the same Xia Yingluo after awakening, so he tried to test it, and she also got the answer he wanted. So Xia Moyan said, "What are your plans in the future?" Plan? Xia Yingluo tilted her head slightly, looking at the scent of tea rising in the air, feeling a little dazed. The awakening time was too short, there were too many things to deal with, such as escaping and recognizing relatives, so she didn't have time to calm down and think about the way forward. Now when Xia Moyan asked her about it, she thought for a moment and said, "I want to go back." The voice is very soft, but very firm. "Back to Star Katana?" Xia Moyan asked. "Yes. Didn't you say that the planet has exploded? Its remains are still there, I can feel it." As Xia Yingluo spoke, her slender and graceful hands unconsciously placed on her heart. The smile on her lips became softer and seemed a little sad. She raised her eyes and looked. Xia Mo said, I am the guardian of the planet. The guardian of the planet of Scatna is passed down from generation to generation by the queen, just like the guardian of the earth is passed down from generation to generation by the Xia family. Uncle, I can feel its pulse, it's like you can feel the earth. Xia Moyan's usually cold eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Except for the previous national advisors of the Xia family, who are also the guardians of the planet, no one knows that this planet has a pulse sensor. The fact that Xia Yingluo can point this out is enough to show that she is really the guardian of a certain planet. Does every planet have such a reaction? Xia Moyan asked. At this time, human beings' curiosity about the unknown world overwhelmed everything else. Xia Yingluo said, every planet that breeds life will have it, and some powerful inanimate planets will also have it. In fact, this is the specific form of the planet's will. The more powerful the planet, the stronger its planet's will, and the stronger the planet's pulse. The stronger, the farther away the guardian can sense it. Star Scatna is the most powerful existence in the universe. Even if it was destroyed hundreds of millions of years ago and exploded into countless pieces, I can still sense it. It's still alive and calling me. These words made Xia Moyan's eyes slightly tremble. To him, it was a mysterious and fascinating unknown territory. Can you tell me more about the planet and the universe? He asked. Of course, Xia Yingluo smiled again. The earth is my second home. She hoped that her hometown would be strong and at least have the ability to protect itself, but today's earth is too weak. If it were not located in a remote corner of the universe, once discovered by an alien civilization, it will be unable to fight back and cannot escape the fate of destruction. Xia Moyan said, thank you. That is a solemn thank you from the guardian of one planet to the guardian of another planet. Xia Yingluo said, why are you so polite, uncle? After all, you saved my life. As she spoke, she shook the bracelet on her wrist. Then a smile appeared on Xia Moyan's lips. I guess you didn't want to expose your ability, so you used this bracelet. Even without it, you wouldn't have been able to fight out of Wei Lingnan's underground base by yourself. It's difficult maybe, from their stories, it's just the difference between a queen and a traitor, but as a national master, Xia Moyan deeply understands that the difference between a planet's guardian and others, the power gap, is an unbridgeable gap. Xia Yingluo nodded, I don't want him to know who I am. Xia Moyan didn't ask why, because he already understood in his heart. Perhaps, the former Queen Aluo was more proud than the little Princess Yingluo, and she would never forgive anyone who betrayed her. He didn't persuade her. In fact, out of selfishness for her relatives, Xia Moyan also believed that the further away she could get from that man, the better. If you need any help from me, just ask, he said. Xia Yingluo said Xia Moyan asked her, how do you plan to return to Scatna? Leave your parents and brothers. Xia Yingluo shook her head, my parents are very good to me. I won't leave now and make them sad. The lifespan of the Scatna people is very long, close to endless. I plan to wait for my parents for 100 years before leaving. The earth can be regarded as the fate of this life. Xia Moyan felt relieved now. He was really worried that if Xia Yingluo left immediately, his silly sister might cry to death. After feeling relieved, I asked another question. You said that the lifespan of the Scatna people is endless, Yingluo, but you are now resurrected in a human body. Are you sure that your current lifespan is also endless? Xia Yingluo raised her hand, looked at it, and thought for a while, not sure. He added, the Scatna people do not have metabolism. Theoretically speaking, if energy is not consumed in battle, energy will be conserved forever. This is also the secret of our infinite lifespan. I am not sure if I still have metabolism now, or if I have metabolism. It doesn't matter if it's different from ordinary people, you'll understand after a few days of observation. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1328. Chapter 1328 A Clumsy Lie. A few days later, we finally came to a conclusion. Xia Yingluo was disappointed. Although her metabolism slowed down, it did not stop completely. In other words, her lifespan will be longer than that of ordinary humans, but compared to the inexhaustibility of the Scatena people, it is simply terrifyingly short-lived. Late at night, she looked at a black hole in the distant starry sky and cried without tears. There was a faint pulse of energy from the place where the star Scatena should have been. Through the pulse, she discovered that the planet was unknown how many trillions of light-years away. In addition, if there is no near-infinite lifespan, there is no way to reach it. She must solve the problem of longevity. If the Scatena gene in the body can further grow and completely engulf and fuse with human genes, then it can have an endless lifespan. To achieve this goal, a lot of energy needs to be added. The energy on the Earth is too weak, and the energy it can absorb through food is not as fast as directly basking in the sun. The sunlight travels through the thick atmosphere and provides her with very little energy. Xia Yingluo calculated that at this rate, she would need to be exposed to the sun for at least 100 million years to completely repair her genes. She scratched the wall in despair, thinking hard about a solution. No matter what, she must find a way to retrieve the wreckage of the Scatena planet, collect the surviving planet energy, and rebuild the planet. This is her duty as queen. However, before she could think of a way to replenish energy, she vomited a mouthful of blood without warning. The blood was mixed with broken internal organs. She looked at the shocking yin-hong between her white fingers for a moment, and then she remembered that this planet has a rejection reaction. When Wei Lingnan stimulated the alien genes in her body, the Earth wanted to destroy her. Now that she has awakened her identity as queen, it would be strange if the Earth did not increase its efforts to murder her. No, we have to find a way, she can't die like this. Xia Yingluo found her uncle and said, "Take me back to Xia's house and open the altar. I want to form an alliance with the Earth on behalf of the planet Scatena." Xia Moyan didn't quite understand what she meant and looked at her questioningly. Xia Yingluo explained, "Alliance is a common diplomatic method between different planets in the universe. It is protected by the laws of the entire universe and no one can violate it. Only planet guardians are qualified to form alliances with other planets on behalf of their own planet. With the current as far as the situation is concerned, it's me and you. Uncle, on behalf of the planet Scatena, I promise to protect the Earth and impart appropriate technology and various knowledge to the Earth. If the Earth needs it in the future, the planet Scatena will do its best. I can help. In return, please stop using rejection against me. This is a good deal." Xia Moyan quickly settled this account. The Scatena planet is the most powerful race in the universe. If their technology and knowledge can be obtained, it will be of great help to the development of the Earth. Not to mention that if there is any difficulty in the future, Star Scatena will lend a helping hand. Although the planet Scatena is now in pieces, Queen Alo is still there and is determined to rebuild the planet. In the long run, what the Earth has gained is an ally that makes the entire universe tremble. As for the price that needs to be paid, it's simply negligible, it just cancels the rejection reaction. Rejection is a restriction imposed by the Earth on alien genes in order to protect the continuation of human bloodline. But Queen Alo promised to leave the Earth and did not intend to thrive here, so it would have no impact whether this restriction existed or not. He could not find any reason to refuse an alliance, both public and private. So Xia Moyan nodded, "Okay, pack up, and we will set off back to the clan tomorrow." Xia Yingluo smiled. She no longer looked like the shrewd Queen Alo, but returned to the innocence of the little princess of the Li family. "I knew uncle was the best." She ran to tell her parents about the incident lightly, and then packed her things. At night, go to bed and sleep happily. Suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. The fingers instinctively activate the bracelet on the wrist, and with a thought, it turns into a dagger, silently touching someone's throat. Opening her eyes, she saw Wei Lingnan standing beside her bed at some point, possessing her. One of his hands had turned into a sharp claw, covering the heart of her chest. She exerted slight force on her wrist, and blood dripped down his throat. Wei Lingnan's pair of light-colored smooth mirror-like eyes slightly narrowed as he looked at her. Your skills are much better than in the past few days, Yingluo. Don't call me Yingluo, it's disgusting. Her voice was cold. Wei Lingnan seemed not to have heard anything and only asked, why? Is it because of the nutritional supplement I injected into you? I saw the surveillance video of you escaping from the laboratory. The other experimental subjects are all afraid of you. Yingluo, it's unscientific to have much more power than them. What is science? Xia Yingluo sneered, still holding the dagger against his throat. Get out. His pupils contracted slightly. Under the dim moonlight, her face was delicate and fair, and her arrogant and disdainful look was very much like the girl in her memory. How can it be? A Luo has obviously awakened, it is Gu Jingxiu, but why does he feel that the Xia Yingluo in front of him is so similar to a Luo? Who are you? He asked out of nowhere. Are you mentally retarded or have you lost your memory? Xia Yingluo sneered, I am your ancestor. Wei Lingnan. His claws were still hovering over Xia Yingluo's heart, as if they could break through her body at any time through her silky skin. Xia Yingluo, however, didn't even frown. Go away. If she hadn't been worried about not revealing her identity, she wouldn't have even bothered to say the word go to him, for fear of just using a dagger to cut him into pieces. Although it seems that with her current level of energy recovery, she cannot defeat him at all, but this does not prevent her from imagining resolving her hatred in her mind. Wei Lingnan didn't roll away, and his tone gradually turned serious. Believe it or not, I will dig out your heart right now. Stupid, Xia Yingluo simply despised his intelligence. After being her guardian all her life, how could the man in front of her be so stupid? Considering her own life, she had to tell him the truth while sarcastically saying, there is nothing wrong with Gu Jingxiu's heart, it's just an act. Don't bother me, otherwise I won't mind dying with her. What did you do? Wei Lingnan's eyes became wary. It's nothing, Xia Yingluo sneered, you know my uncle is the national master. There are many wonderful and mysterious knowledge on this planet. I begged him to add something to my heart. In short, if Gu Jingxiu eats it, haha. She didn't finish the rest of the words, but it was enough for people to imagine. Wei Lingnan's hand exerted a slight force, and his sharp claws pierced her fair skin, and blood flowed out, mixing with the blood flowing down his throat. Don't think you can fool me with such a clumsy lie. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1329. Chapter 1329 Acting. Xia Yingluo stopped talking, her eyes full of ridicule. The two faced each other in silence for a long time, and Wei Lingnan's sharp claws slowly retracted. As if she had expected him to do this, Xia Yingluo sneered and stood up as lightly as a mysterious fairy. The blood stains on her jade-white skin under the moonlight were as bright as cinnabar. She took off her lace pajamas in front of Wei Lingnan without any care, and her slender and graceful body was exposed to his sight without any obstruction. She turned her back to him and rummaged through the spacious and luxurious walk-in closet. After picking it up, I quickly found a silk pajamas that was exactly the same as when I escaped this morning. Fortunately, she has the habit of buying two pieces of the dress she likes. Xia Yingluo put on the dress, rummaged through the dressing table to find an eyebrow pencil, and pulled out a piece of paper to write something on. Wei Lingnan looked at her busy figure and his breathing became slightly tight. It had only been a few hours since she escaped from the laboratory, but something seemed different. She became more arrogant, more unbridled, more confident, and no longer afraid of him. Why is this happening? His eyes were dark, lingering on her body. After Xia Yingluo finished writing the note, she straightened up and said to Wei Lingnan, "Let's go." "Where to go?" Wei Lingnan asked subconsciously, and then she remembered to glance at the note. She actually left a message to her family saying that she was going to return to Wei's base. If she couldn't come back within 10 hours, she would ask her family to kill Gu Jingxiu. Why? He found that he couldn't understand her. He finally escaped, so why did he take the initiative to go back? Why is there so much nonsense? Xia Yingluo was impatient. This person had become stupid after drifting to the earth. He never questioned her orders before, but now he asked her to explain sentence by sentence, because I don't like to be involved. You and Gu Jingxiu's troubles should be settled once and for all. Wei Lingnan, you call her to the base and I'll let you see if her heart problem is real or not. Wei Lingnan stood motionless. Let's go. Xia Yingluo became even more impatient. True or not, he said slowly, she is my queen. Xia Yingluo almost vomited a mouthful of blood. She wanted to tell him that your queen was almost mad at you, but she managed to hold it back. She sneered, so even if she doesn't make sense, you have to dig out my heart and give it to her? Let me tell you, I am not that easy to mess with. If you really dig it, just wait for her to explode due to energy conflict. Wei Lingnan did not dare to take risks. He believed that although the Xia family did not have the strength to defeat him, it would be too easy for them to die together. For the current plan, just like Xia Yingluo said, the only choice is to verify whether Gu Jingxiu is pretending to be ill. If he was pretending to be ill, then everyone would be happy and he would no longer have to worry about whether to take the risk of digging out Xia Yingluo's heart. Let's go. He made up his mind and took her towards Wei's base. It was as usual in Wei's base, and it seemed that her escape had no impact. However, as Xia Yingluo walked in, she was keenly aware that the number of checkpoints in the dark had at least doubled, and there were also countless more surveillance cameras. This time, you won't be able to escape so easily, Wei Lingnan said indifferently after noticing her scrutiny. Xia Yingluo sneered and said nothing. If it were her before awakening, the defense here would indeed be impeccable, but now that she has awakened, haha, she can enter and leave here just like entering and exiting an uninhabited land. She walked into the laboratory where she was originally detained and signaled Wei Lingnan to put the shackles on her. Wei Lingnan took a new pair of shackles and put them on her, his eyes cold. I couldn't find the remains of the previous one. Can't you take it back as a souvenir? Xia Yingluo said casually. The previous shackles were shattered by her energy. She was stupid not to destroy the body and eliminate all traces. Wei Lingnan's eyes darkened again and she said nothing. After checking that the new shackles had indeed locked her tightly, she stood up and left the laboratory. It had been less than 24 hours since she escaped from the laboratory, and most of the staff in the base had no idea. At this time, she came back quietly, and people just pretended that she had never left. Wei Lingnan brought Gu Jingxiu and told her softly, after testing, Xia Yingluo's body has reached its optimal condition. Now I can dig out her heart and make medicine for you. Across the huge transparent glass wall, Gu Jingxiu looked at Xia Yingluo, who was curled up weakly on the ground, with a cold smile on her lips. It's great. Although I can't bear it, Miss Xia, I feel your sacrifice and will remember everything you paid for me. Xia Yingluo wanted to rush up and tear her mouth apart immediately. This faker actually has the nerve to make a fuss over a cat over a mouse. But who told her to pretend to be a dying experimental subject now? So, he just lay weakly on the ground panting. Wei Lingnan opened the door of the laboratory, turned his back to Gu Jingxiu, and squatted down in front of her, his fingers turning into sharp claws. The moment he was about to pierce her chest, he saw the scar on her white skin that he had burned with a cigarette butt. His sharp claws were hovering in mid-air, and he suddenly felt unable to strike. From an angle that Gu Jingxiu couldn't see, Xia Yingluo gave him a sneer. Without any warning, she stretched out her hand, grabbed his wrist and pulled down. The sharp claws pierced her chest, and blood immediately poured out like a spring, staining her body, clothes, and the ground. The feeling of cold claws embedded in her body was painful. Xia Yingluo could feel that his sharp claws were less than an inch away from her beating heart. She even shivered from the cold air. But she didn't panic at all. Even though her lips turned white in pain, her eyes were calm, and she just looked at him quietly. On the other hand, it was Wei Lingnan. The sharp claw that pierced her chest was too stiff to move. He was afraid that if he moved even a little bit, he would really break her heart. It was really weird. Just a few hours ago, he had made up his mind to kill her, but when the claws actually cut open her body, his first reaction was fear. Afraid that something might really happen to her. Her brain was a little confused, and her cold and sarcastic eyes overlapped with the eyes that were imprinted deep in her heart hundreds of millions of years ago. Allo. His voice was very soft, so soft that he just moved the corners of his lower lips, and no one heard it. Why does she look so much like his Allo? Even more similar than the real reincarnated Gu Jingxiu. Gu Jingxiu didn't feel the slightest resemblance to that noble queen, but a casual look on Xia Yingluo made people have the urge to tremble and crawl. Wei Lingnan was so confused that he didn't notice Xia Yingluo's impatient and urging eyes. Xia Yingluo was losing a lot of blood at this time and was in agony. Seeing that he was staring at her in a daze without remembering to take the next step, she really wanted to slap him twice. According to their original plan, the next step was that he should dig out a piece of flesh and blood next to her heart and pretend that it was her heart. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1330. Chapter 1330 Decoction. But looking at the current situation, he might not be able to think of what to do after all the blood from her body was gone. Her cold fingers touched his wrist again, intending to help him. Unexpectedly, he suddenly trembled slightly, and his sharp nails stirred in the flesh and blood of her chest, which was so painful that she almost fainted. She glared at him, but she saw him suddenly pull out his sharp claws, roll up his sleeves, and give her arm a hard scratch. A piece of flesh and blood fell down without warning. The wound on his arm healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, and then he put his sleeves down again, as if nothing had happened. Xia Yingluo stared at him blankly. Before she could recover, he had already stood up and walked out with the piece of flesh and blood. Outside the laboratory, Gu Jingxiu didn't see what happened when he turned his back to her. When he saw him bringing out a ball of things, he felt nauseated and queasy, but he was delighted and said, "Nan, you did a great job, you finally dug it out." Her heart was broken inside the huge glass wall. Xia Yingluo fell to the ground covered in blood, seemingly dead. Looking at Wei Lingnan's expressionless face, Gu Jingxiu's smile deepened. Wei Lingnan casually handed the fuzzy mass to an experimenter beside him and ordered, "Make it into soup." The experimenter took it quietly, turned around and left. Wei Lingnan then walked up to Gu Jingxiu, stretched out his blood-stained hands, and held her face. The smell of blood hit Gu Jingxiu's nostrils for waves. She was a noble lady from a wealthy family. She had never seen anything like this before. She turned her face away in disgust. "Aluo," Wei Lingnan frowned. His Aluo is the queen of the strongest fighting race in the universe. She usually kills decisively and fights back and forth from the mountains of corpses and seas of blood without frowning at all. In fact, after a fierce battle, she didn't know how many Zerg corpses she had eaten alive. How could Aluo frown at the slight smell of blood? Gu Jingxiu took 2 steps back and instinctively covered her nose with her hand, fearing that Wei Lingnan would be unhappy, so she quickly let go. "It's probably been a long time since I've been on the battlefield, and I'm not used to smelling blood now, she reluctantly said, feeling strange in her heart. She was clearly a killing machine in the dream, so why was she so weak now? Could it be that the human body is too weak to withstand such a level of impact? It should be better after I repair the heart. Wei Lingnan suppressed the doubt in his heart and nodded. Maybe it's because she hasn't been on the battlefield for a long time. In fact, the longest time, when Aluo was still an innocent little girl, she would cry when she saw a weak reptile being injured. Maybe she is just back to the most vulnerable time now. It doesn't matter. They still have a lifetime to take their time. The decoction was quickly prepared and served. A bowl of thick and delicious broth, just smelling it will make people want to eat. Wei Lingnan took the soup bowl from the staff and handed it to Gu Jingxiu. This is Xia Yingluo's heart, drink it while it's hot. Gu Jingxiu's face turned a little pale. No matter how delicious the broth looked, she found it difficult to swallow as soon as she thought that it was a human heart. Human flesh. She never imagined that one day she would eat human flesh. Does it have to be made into soup? She took a few steps back, resisting the smell of the all-pervading meat aroma. Is there any other way, such as making it into pills or injections? Soup has the best effect, Wei Lingnan said. He has no obstacles to this matter. He is not an earthling, and there is no concept of cannibalism at all. In his opinion, eating human flesh is no different from humans eating pigs and dogs. What's more, this bowl of soup didn't contain human flesh at all, just an ordinary deer heart, something he had ordered the staff to prepare in advance. Although Gu Jingxiu was vicious, he still couldn't pass the test in his heart. His face turned white again, and begged Wei Lingnan, make it an injection. Wei Lingnan glanced at her thoughtfully. Could it be that Earth's genes really have such a great influence on Aluo? He felt an inexplicable disappointment. Could it be that even if Aluo was resurrected, she would no longer be the powerful and noble queen in his memory? Not even a little princess. His little princess is innocent and innocent. She would rather be tortured to death by disease than give an order to dig out other people's hearts. The Gu Jingxiu in front of him felt very strange to him. Looking at Gu Jingxiu's pleading eyes, Wei Lingnan was inexplicably irritated and said, Aluo, you are from the Scatena planet and not a human being. What are you worried about? Those words made Gu Jingxiu irrefutable. Wei Lingnan added, I have killed the person and dug out the heart for you. It doesn't matter if you don't eat it, just throw it away. The heart that has been made into decoction cannot be made into potion again. Aluo, if you just want Xia Yingluo to die, then your goal has been achieved, and there is no need to force yourself to drink this bowl of soup. Just want Xia Yingluo to die? Wei Lingnan's sudden words made Gu Jingxiu's heart skip a beat. Why would he say such a thing? Had he already seen through that she was not sick at all? Gu Jingxiu had 1,000 thoughts in her mind. She was afraid that Wei Lingnan would think she had lied to him, so she gritted her teeth and said with determination, I'll drink. Took the big bowl, closed his eyes, and drank the bowl of soup in one gulp. The broth was delicious, but she didn't dare to taste it carefully. Her mouth seemed to be filled with the taste of blood. Xia Yingluo's corpse was still lying not far behind the glass wall. Gu Jingxiu drank the last sip of soup, retched several times, and finally managed not to spit it out. Taking a deep breath, he stood still and looked at Wei Lingnan with a pale but calm face. Wei Lingnan's eyebrows remained unchanged, and there was a hint of indifference in his voice. Do you feel better? Gu Jingxiu was still immersed in the shock caused by drinking the heart soup. Without thinking much, she instinctively said, I feel much better. My heart has been repaired. She raised her head and looked at Wei Lingnan. Nan, thank you, I'm very happy. Even if she drank the human heart soup, as long as she could kill Xia Yingluo, she could do it if she drank another 100 bowls. Wei Lingnan said calmly, I'll take you back to your room to rest. At this point, it was clear that Gu Jingxiu's heart was fine and there was no need to take Xia Yingluo's heart. This woman deliberately deceived him into attacking Xia Yingluo in order to eliminate her love rival. This made him feel a little uncomfortable. How long ago had Luo needed to go through such a subtle deception when giving orders to him? Gu Jingxiu didn't want to stay any longer in this room filled with the smell of meat and blood, so he followed Wei Lingnan and was about to walk out. However, behind a huge glass wall, on the cold floor of the laboratory, Xia Yingluo, who was supposed to be dead, moved, a little weakly, but stood up little by little. End of this chapter.